Hello everyone, welcome to the orbit of the coding. So this is part 5 Angular tutorial, and in this section I'm going to explain data binding in Angular. So data binding is basically it's a very important topic in Angular. So it's a kind of core part. Like if you get any kind of requirement through the client or project, everywhere we need to bind the data. Either we need to bind the grid, I need to submit the forms, either we need to display the user in the user details in the components. So in every component, in every specific requirement, we need to use data bindings in Angular. So basically data binding is it's bind the data between component to view or view to component. So suppose if user change the data in the component, then that data should be reflect in the view. Or similarly, vice versa, if we submit anything or if we change any data in the view, should reflect in the component. So data binding we have two groups. I- I'm going to show you in the words. So I have conclude some examples or some. So we have two groups in the data binding. One is one-way data binding and another one is two-way data binding. So in one-way data binding, we have like a specific example. Like if you need to bind the data between component to view, then we can use uh, interpolation, property binding. And in property binding, we have class name binding, attributes binding, ngClass binding, style binding, and style binding. So these are the example of property bindings. Or second is one view to component. If we need to send data from view to component, then we can use event binding. And this is the syntax of event binding, right? So in the interpolation, we can use double braces to bind the data from component to view. In the property binding, like if I need to, I will explain you in the example. So if I need to bind some class name, if I need to bind in the div class or add, or we need to add some specific condition based on the class name, then we can use a property binding. And event binding form like button click submits, or we can say that on selection changes, or drop down, if we need to select anything in the drop down, based on that if we need to change anything. So these are the event binding kind of event binding examples. And the second one is two-way data binding. It means uh, if anything is change in the view, it should reflect in the component, or if I anything change in the component, then it should reflect in the view. So it's a two-way data binding. Either we can change the component to view or view to component. These are the syntax we can use. Ng modules, small brackets, and this is the syntax. Here you can see that. So ng module is associated to the, like we can say that it's Angular core library, and this is the part of form modules, right? In the form modules, like a library Angular modules are there, right? So let's flip to the visual code, and I'm going to show you the one by one examples. In first, I'm going to one-way data binding. In one-way data binding, I'm going to show you example the interpolation, like component to view. Already I prepared some examples here. I already write some code, so I'm going to explain one by one lines what the things is there. So actually I write some code because it's like video is not going too lengthy. So I already write some specific code, but I'm going to write some line of code to explain what exactly is there. So this is Angular. Already I explained you. This is Angular 18 version. I'm using to prepare a video. So in Angular 18 version, we don't have. Uh, we can see that don't have app dot modules. This is a standalone components. If talking about standalone, so in standalone, every component have a standalone. It's not dependent upon each other. So in some upcoming session, I will also explain that what is mean by standalone true in the decorators. Here you can see that we have one property that is standalone true. So this is a big topics. So I will explain later. We'll give some specific examples, right? So here you can see that. So we have create one. So these are the tags like app header. So we have create a one layout. In the layout we have a header, we have a footer, and these are the content content of the middle body. We can say that, right? So these are the one headers. So these sorry these are the one component. These are the two second component, and these are the third components. All the components together create a one specific UI. So now I'm going to uh, m- serve the application ng serve. So you can add a node based on a requirement. If you click the add plus one symbol, so one another terminals are open, you can write or add some command based on your requirement. So here you can see that I already explained. Here you can see that we created one layout. So these are the headers. In the headers, this is the components, and in this component we have defined the header, we have defined the logo, like we have defined the titles name, orbit of the coding. We have the menu items. In the menu items, I have bind the one way binding, that is component to view. So so ng directives, this is the ng4, similar to the for loops, but I will explain all the directive in the coming session. So as of now, you can see that I have created one menu items. In the menu items, we have labels, home, and this is the path of that component. And after that, we have bind to the labels and path. Here you can say that. And another one, that is footer. So I have created a footer components. In the footer components, we have hard coded value, right? And so one most important things, so like we can say that, like in the header component, I have used ng4 and router link. So if you define ng4 in the nav tag, so you need to add, or you need to import the ng4 in the components, or similarly router link in the components. If you remove the ng4 here, then we you can get the exception if it didn't recognize the ng4 that tags, ng4 directives, where you can see that. So in the upper version, with Angular 18 version or upper version, we need to add ng4 here. Here you can say that now build is successfully. And similarly for the router links. Now I am going to the middle of the component, that is one-way data binding. So So this is the header, this is footer, and this is the whole page content I was already created. So these are the uh, content. So in this content, you can see that we have a one-way data binding. So now I'm going to see how interpolation works, how we can bind component to view, right? So now I'm going to create a one variable title. We type string, and I'm going to put the one-way data binding in assign the value in the title, right? Here you can see that now it's not saving. One second. So now I have saved that, and you can see that what data bindings is gone. So I have created one way data binding, and this is the component variables in the my component comp class. And now I'm going to bind that particular value using interpolation. Interpolation syntax I already explained. Here we need to use double braces and the name of the variables, right? So you can put the name of variables uh, title here, and going to save. If I save, then automatically reflect the value in the browsers. Here you can see that one way data binding is showing. Now if I change anything in the data, like one way data binding example, or just hit the save, so here you can say that its data is reflected in the view. If I change data in the component, it's reflected in the view, right? And another one, we have a property binding. In property binding, we can set HTML attributes as class names, ng class name, or if we have style binding, like you need to change the color, you need to set the borders. So in the specific things, we need to use property binding. I just show you one example, class name binding. So this is a div. I'm going to bind the class name binding, right? Can't bind the class name since it's known property, a known property of div. Okay, might be some spelling mistakes. One second. Class name attribute, right? Just I put some name, CLS examples. All right. One second. It's not recognize the class name. So might be okay. So it's a type, like I need to add small c. It's case sensitive. That's why it's not recognized. So here you can see that it's a capital C. So we need to put the class C small in here. So I already created a one CSS, that is CLS examples. So now I'm going to pass the CLS example here and save the buttons. Here you can see that we have set the color of the class, that is brown. I'm going to set some other text. It's going to set blue now, kind of purple. So now just going hit the save button, and here you can see that all the text inside, now it's reflected, change the color. And if I change the color some other things, like if I color change the yellow, so and going to save, so it should reflect the changes. So this is the example of property bindings. And now if there is another example like view to component, how to bind a data from a view to component, right? So this is a example of event binding. So here you can say that I already create one button, and we have put the on click event, we have called the func functions func event function, and based on that, if I click the event, then the data should be changed. I need to change the title. If I click uh, the button, then title should be changed. So data, the communication of data between view to component. So I already defined a method in the component. So now I am going to change the data of title, like this dot titles, and I am going to put the example of view to component communication, and going to save. So here you can see that in the titles currently it's showing one-way data binding. So if I hit the button submit, then here you can see that example of view to component data should be reflected, right? So so data is data is changed. We can see that based on event, right? But eitherly this is the example of component to view, but performing something in performing onto, like we can say that performing something, some click on the event, based on the event we have send communication to the view and change that the data in the component, and then component should reflect the data in the view. Or I will give some another examples. If you don't use the title, I create another variable. I'm going to just show you some ideal example of how the communication of data between view to component. So on the event click, I just change the title name, right? And in the title name, I'm going to bind the through interpolation, right? So currently you can see that we have one way data binding and there is no tags are there. When we submit, when we click the event, here you can see that the communication is going to the view to component, eh, and the data is showing. Now I'm going to explain the two-way data bindings using the ngModel. So ngModel is basically here this is the syntax. If it's working from the both the way, we can say that. So if I change the data from view, it's reflect to the component, and if I change the data to the component, it should reflect to the view. So I just write the welcome feedback first name and the last name, right? So now here you can see that. So if I put the first name, once again, Alok, here you can say that it should reflect the welcome, and if I put him, it should reflect welcome Alok. Okay, right? If I change anything, it should reflect the data dynamically, right? So this is the example of two-way data binding. Or if you change anything in the component, like we can see that anything in the component, like first name is test and last name is example, then you can see that it's set the data test and example. So it's working two-way bindings. So that's it from this video. And if you have any questions, if you have any query, please put in the comment box. I'm happy to solve your queries. Thank you so much for watching this video and happy learning.